There's a moment, quiet and personal, when everything inside you wants to quit. You don't scream. You don't fall apart. You just stare at the wall, numb, asking, why am I still doing this? That moment is not weakness. It's the test. And the voice that answers, that calm, grounded whisper that tells you to keep going, is discipline. I didn't understand that voice until I met Epictetus, not in person, but in pages stained with the wisdom of ancient endurance. Epictetus was born into slavery. He owned nothing, had no power, no wealth. But what he mastered was something kings often failed at: himself. His body could be shackled, beaten, broken, but his mind, untouchable. He taught that freedom isn't the absence of suffering. It's the clarity to choose how you meet it. That's what I didn't have until I began to learn. Modern life makes discipline sound brutal, like self-denial, like cold showers and 5 a.m. alarms. But Epictetus saw it differently. For him, discipline was harmony, a refusal to be ruled by impulse or chaos, a kind of music you play with your soul, while the world roars around you. And when I first began to truly apply it, it felt like learning to walk again, but upright, eyes forward. What struck me wasn't how harsh his teachings were. It was how liberating. He said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." It hit me hard, because I'd spent so long chasing things, money, validation, dopamine, without ever questioning who was really in control. Me? Or the storm inside me? Discipline is misunderstood. It's not about saying no to pleasure. It's about saying yes to purpose. It's about showing up, not when it's easy, but especially when it's not. Epictetus didn't ask us to reject the world. He asked us to remember that how we respond to the world, that's where our power lies. When you start living by that truth, everything changes. The noise quiets, the distractions fade. What remains is you, and the choice you make every single moment, to react or to rise. So let's rise. Let's walk deeper into this discipline. Because what Epictetus taught me, it didn't just make me stronger, it made me free. Discipline isn't loud. It doesn't demand attention. It's the quiet force behind every difficult decision, every habit that sticks, every path that doesn't end in regret. Epictetus taught me that what truly belongs to us is our will, our ability to decide. Everything else, borrowed, fragile, temporary. He often drew a simple line between what we can control and what we can't. Our thoughts, actions, and reactions, those are ours. Everything else, fame, fortune, even our own bodies, are outside that line. At first it sounded harsh, but slowly, I saw the wisdom in it. Peace doesn't come from trying to control the world. It comes from mastering how we meet it. In my own life, anxiety used to rule me. I feared outcomes, people's opinions, failing. But Epictetus didn't teach me to suppress fear. He taught me to redirect it, to fear losing integrity more than losing comfort, to fear dishonor more than defeat. Discipline then became my compass, not toward perfection, but toward peace. Each day became a quiet battlefield. Would I waste time or honor it? Would I react from ego or respond from reason? Would I give in to comfort or rise for growth? These questions became my inner ritual, and every time I chose rightly, I felt more solid, less scattered, more myself. It's tempting to think that self-control means coldness, but the opposite is true. When you're not ruled by craving, you see clearer, you feel deeper, you speak less, but with more weight. That's the gift of discipline. It brings gravity to your presence. In a world that rewards noise, silence becomes power. In a world addicted to reaction, stillness becomes rebellion. Epictetus didn't ask us to numb ourselves. He asked us to know ourselves, to hold the reins, to be the captain in every storm. And once you feel that, once you taste the clarity that comes from controlling yourself instead of others, you'll never want to go back. I used to think strength meant always pushing forward, hustling, winning. But Epictetus taught me that real strength sometimes looks like stillness. Sometimes discipline isn't motion, it's restraint. Not doing what feels good now, so you don't regret it forever. When chaos comes, and it always does, our instincts scream. React. Fix it. Run. But discipline invites us to pause, to watch our thoughts like passing clouds, to wait, not in fear, but in command. That pause. That is where wisdom lives. The world today is built to break your focus. Notifications, opinions, temptations. You're one click away from distraction, one scroll away from losing hours of your life. Epictetus would shake his head at all this, but he wouldn't rage. He'd ask, what are you choosing with each moment? We are not passive victims of modern life. We are choosers. And if we don't choose discipline, we don't choose freedom. We surrender to algorithms, trends, impulses. But when you anchor yourself in reason, when you hold to your values even when the world pulls you elsewhere, that's when you become untouchable. That's not to say it's easy. I've failed more times than I can count. But each failure became a lesson. Each slip reminded me, discipline isn't about being flawless. It's about coming back to yourself, again and again, until that return becomes instinct. In a world falling apart, the one who stays composed becomes a lighthouse. And that's what we need more than ever. Not louder voices, but steadier ones. Epictetus reminded me, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgment about them. And if you can hold your judgment steady, your soul becomes unshakable. The most dangerous lie is that we have time. Discipline isn't about punishment, it's about design. Each day, each decision, shapes the architecture of your life. Epictetus was clear. If you don't build your life, someone else will. There was a time I drifted. Days blended together, goals faded. But once I started practicing what Epictetus taught, things changed. I began asking, is what I'm doing today aligned with the person I want to be? That question alone changed everything. Discipline became a kind of artistic blueprint. My actions were no longer random. They were brushstrokes. My habits, the foundation. My boundaries, the frame. Every yes or no carried weight. I wasn't just living. I was sculpting a legacy. And it wasn't grand. It was subtle. Waking up early, not for productivity, but for clarity. Saying no, not out of fear, but out of intent. Taking care of my body, not to impress, but to honor the vehicle of my soul. This is what Epictetus meant when he spoke of virtue. It's not about public success, it's about private integrity. Discipline becomes the lens through which you see clearly what truly matters. And once you see it, once you taste that kind of purpose, you stop settling. You stop betraying yourself for momentary pleasure. You start living deliberately, unapologetically, fully. So ask yourself, what life are you building? And are your daily choices worthy of it? Nobody tells you this at the beginning. Choosing discipline means choosing distance. You start walking a different path, quieter, slower, deeper. And without realizing it, you begin drifting away from the noise, from the crowds, from the people you used to move with. At first, it feels empowering, but then it starts to feel like silence. Discipline has a cost, not in money or blood, but in connection. While others stay up late talking about drama, you go to bed early with unread books. While others chase trends, you chase truths. And slowly, you begin to realize, growth is not always loud. Most of the time, it sounds like nothing. Just you, alone in a room, choosing not to give up. Epictetus knew this feeling intimately. Born into slavery, he understood the kind of loneliness that breaks most people. But he also understood something deeper. We are never truly alone when we stand with reason. The disciplined life might look isolated from the outside, but internally, it is full of intention, peace, and presence. Still, let's not romanticize it. There are nights when silence feels like abandonment, days when you question if this path is worth it. Friends stop calling, crowds stop noticing, and somewhere inside, that small voice asks, what if I'm missing out? But this too is part of the test. Because the hardest part of discipline is not doing the work. It's walking alone while others laugh together. And yet, there's a quiet kind of strength that grows in solitude. When you no longer need validation. When your actions are not performative. When you're no longer living for applause but for alignment. In that space, you stop chasing noise. And you begin hearing your soul again. Discipline doesn't just shape your habits. It refines your identity. You become someone you can rely on, someone you respect. And yes, that might mean fewer friends, but it will also mean fewer regrets. Epictetus didn't seek popularity. He sought peace. And in that pursuit, he gained something the world couldn't offer: freedom. So if you ever feel alone on this path, remember this: loneliness is not always emptiness. Sometimes it is the spaciousness required for something sacred to grow. And those who walk the lonely road with discipline eventually walk it with grace. Alone at first, but never lost. They say rebellion is loud. But the most powerful resistance today is quiet. It's choosing presence in a distracted world, silence in a culture of noise, stillness when everything urges you to move faster. In the age of speed, discipline is the refusal to be swept away. And that refusal is an act of revolution. Epictetus never lived in an era of screens and scrolls, but his words echo louder now than ever. If a person gave away your body to some passerby, you'd be furious. Yet you hand over your mind to anyone who comes along. The ancient warning hits differently today, because we give away our attention every single day, voluntarily, mindlessly. The modern world isn't neutral. It's designed to keep you reactive, impulsive, shallow, to chase stimulation, not depth. We're not just distracted, we're disarmed. And discipline? It becomes our only shield. The decision to turn off notifications becomes a rebellion. The act of finishing a book becomes an uprising. Choosing focus over frenzy becomes radical. This isn't just personal development. It's civil disobedience of the soul. Because if you don't claim your mind, someone else will. Discipline is saying, I am not a product, I am not a puppet, I will not be dragged by the tide. Every moment of deliberate action is a strike against the machine that wants you numb and controllable. But let's be honest, it's exhausting. Choosing the higher path every day can feel lonely. You'll look around and see others taking shortcuts, chasing highs, succeeding faster. And you'll question, why am I doing this? But Epictetus reminds us, success without integrity is a quiet kind of defeat. And shortcuts always cost more in the long run. So what does daily resistance look like? It looks like choosing your values over your urges, writing when you'd rather scroll, reflecting when you'd rather react, walking your path, even when no one sees. That's the kind of rebellion that transforms, not just your mind, but your life. In the end, the war isn't out there, it's inside. The enemy is not technology or society, it's surrender. And every time you choose discipline, you declare, I will not surrender myself to this world, I will remain whole. That, Epictetus would say, is the only victory worth chasing. In the end, discipline is not about perfection. It's not a badge, not a performance. It's a relationship with yourself. A daily choice to honor your path, your peace, your potential. Epictetus didn't hand me a map. He lit a flame. The rest was up to me. And it's up to you too. You don't need to change everything overnight. Just start here. One choice, one habit, one moment of clarity where you choose the higher path. Not because you have to, but because something inside you knows. This is who I am. Epictetus once said, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Not to impress, not to compete, but to align. Because the reward of discipline is not applause. It's becoming who you were meant to be. So today, choose not to react. Choose to respond. Choose not to escape. Choose to endure. Choose not to impress. Choose to improve. In a world on fire, become the stillness in the flame. If this message spoke to something inside you, not the loud part, but the quiet part, then maybe you're walking the same road too. Subscribe. Not just to this channel, but to a life with deeper meaning. A life where discipline becomes your peace. You're not too late, you're not too broken, you're just beginning. Welcome to the path. Let's walk it together.